Hi, this is Mark Killian. Welcome to my YouTube channel, where we're always learning. And this week, we are looking at part 2 of the episode called Recording and Working with Vocals. In part 1, we looked at recording the vocal and then chopping up all the phrases and then preparing them to put them into the sampler. In this episode, we're going to look at how we put that into the sampler, then how do we get all the phrases processed and equalized so they all make sense so that you can then perform them, and then building the melody in the final track. So let's go take a look. Okay, so now that everything is bounced and exported into little chunks, we are going to start racking up in the EXS. First, let's go look at the files quickly. Okay, so now that we're looking in the Finder at everything, I realize there are 79 different samples. I have an 88 keyboard. The EXS starts racking things up, or at least I like to start racking things up on here, which is C1, which is, an octave and a bit above your lowest if you're on an 88 keyboard. So I'm not going to fit all 79 into one instrument. Fine with me. We'll put the melody one cuts as one EXS instrument, and then the green, orange, and reds as another. So all looks good. Go back to Logic. Go to an instrument track. Grab a EXS, and if you've never worked with this guy before, it's, well, like everything in Logic, funky, clunky, but actually kind of pretty neat. What you need to do is go into Edit, which is popped up on the other monitor. I'll bring it over here. This is the window where we're going to rack these samples into. So let's first do the melody one. We go to Zone, load multiple samples, and then go and select those samples. There to the end, 29. Add all of those. Done. You can just leave this the way it is. I just like to do it this way. Contiguous zones. The zone width is 1. It's your start note is C1. I could get an extra octave at the bottom if I wanted to, but over the years, all my libraries all start at C1. When I'm just pulling stuff up, I know exactly where they start. I don't have to go searching for stuff. Much better. So pop it all in there. And now, there it is. Problem is, the way it pops it in there, it makes it a one-shot. You don't want a one-shot. I'm going to get rid of the one-shots. I select everything, hit Option, and bam, no more one-shot. So now, it's all in there in its raw glory. What you want to do is go and save that as an EXS instrument, wherever your library happens to be. Mine is here. It's in Projects. I don't yet have a project for this, so I'm going to call it Gethsemane, and I'm going to call this Hamid Melody. And bam, that's as easy as it gets. Try do that in Kontakt. It's just got to take a second, and your EXS now is there, and you will find that it is in your library just as we put it, to be bought up even in 20 years time. And there it is. We're going to work with it in a second. Let me go and do the second one, the red, greens, and yellows. Cuts, other. And that's it. So now you will see that both of them are there. So now let's start working with this. Here's your EXS, and here's my track. First thing is volume adjustment. Usually things are pretty quiet. I could have gone and volume adjusted all those audio files if I wanted to. Probably too lazy for that. Probably fine. You have options. You can go into Edit, and you can select everything, and if you want, you can up the volume of all of them quite easily by doing that. I'm not going to do that. I like to leave that as an equalizer. Some phrases are louder than others. You can go in and make those adjustments here. Not going to do that. Easier for me is just to bring up a gain plugin here. and up the gain by, you know, whatever, let's say 6 dB for now. And also don't forget something you will find in another episode I'm going to do, which is how I set up my template and all these blips at the beginning of every track here that give you a shot of MIDI CC data, both volume and expression. I think they're set at 90 or 80 or something like that. So right now it's got a shot of that, and so it's kind of loud enough, but I have more if I bring up CC11, and then if I also bring up CC7, yeah, it's getting really loud. So I think we're good. Right, now what we do is go to the beginning of the track. Now you want to get a bit of a vibe with this vocal. So I'm going to do kind of a standard thing I like to do. I always put a EQ at the beginning. We're not going to touch that now. May not even end up touching it, but I like to have it there in case you need to go back and do something. If we were going to do auto-tune, this is where I do it, after the EQ, because sometimes in the EQ you're going to want to, you know, clean it up a bit if you've got too much low sub in there, and that can really fuck with the auto-tune. So that's where we do it. I'm not going to do an auto-tune on this. So the next step would be a delay of sorts. I'm just going to pop in a Valhalla delay. Doesn't really matter. I'm looking for more of a doubling sound, so let's just pull up a pitch thing, which will be a doubler. Doesn't really matter. Voice doubler, fine. Let's get a good mix. There we go. This gives it a bit of a stereo sound, which is great. Next in the chain, I'm going to want to put a reverb. Now, I could and should maybe bus a reverb out as a send, but I kind of like the sound of the reverb also being affected by the compressor, at least in this case. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to pop in my Lexicon from UAD, which I really love. Turn that off. I'm just not even going to mess with it, just the standard default that it comes with, probably a mix of around. Okay, maybe I will mess with it a bit. I feel like it could be a tiny bit bigger. Yeah, so we will adjust that as we go through the track. And the last is a compressor. This is one of my favorites. I have others that I like too, but this one is very simple. And it's going to depend on how it sounds in the track and as to how much I compress it. Here is my gain makeup. And if you find you're going too high here, well then just go to the gain and adjust it here as much as you want. I'll top it into 8. And that's really compressing the balls off it, but you're going to want to compress this pretty hard because the dynamic levels of my dear friend Hamed are extraordinary, from soft to loud. There's quite a few dB there. So we've got a basic vibe going on here, and now in the EXS you can play with whether you want velocity to affect the sound of the volume of the sample or not. Usually I don't want to do that because I may elect to go back and change that if I need to, but I'd rather not do that. It can get a bit complicated if you're also now worrying about velocities and how they're affecting the sound. I'm also going to up the release here so that if I let my finger off, it's not just dying right out. Again, I will adjust this as we go through the track. I'm not going to do any filtering or any tuning or anything like that. Sometimes I do. In this particular case, I don't need to. So that's it. Now what I can do is start playing my track. And let's pull the volume down. And let's just go from the beginning, from C1. So that's really quite nice. Let's say I like that. Bum it in there. Let's carry on. Fucking awesome. But maybe not. Maybe that's too much for the beginning of the track. We want to ease in. Let's find some phrases. I like that one. So let's go back and see how it sounds. It's kind of a nice introduction. Now let's bring in this other one. It's quite nice, except I don't like the attack. And I want it a bit earlier because the duduk comes in there. It would be nice to have it go so the duduk kind of takes over from it. Alright, so you've got a couple of choices. You can either do just volume automation to get rid of that, or you can do an automation on the actual EXS itself, which in this case I might prefer. It's just fine. I'm going to just adjust the attack so that you don't hear the beginning of that. Okay, that's not really doing it. So what I am going to do then is an automation. Okay, now I'm going to put the automation on region-based automation. And we want volume. And do that. In fact, do that because I really don't want that first part. And let's try that. So I don't want the da da, I just want the da, because this is, that's exactly what I want. Okay, now my volume, I believe, is set here at, is that 80? Yeah. So this will be fine because it will chase that blip at the beginning. And you want this to go, just make sure you're back at 80 so that anything else that comes after that is at 80. And that should work just fine. Obviously that's catching up in the middle there. We do it a bit slower, like so. Beautiful. Now it goes into the duduk, and you have a nice phrase there that makes sense. Let's keep on going. Okay, the duduk's going to start playing the melody, so maybe it's time for melody here. So, kind of liking where we are with the sound for now. Let's go and copy that channel strip setting and paste it onto here, including the EXS24, but now we are going to the melody, which, oops, wrong way. There it is, Hamed melody. Not going to change anything else, because now we should have the melody EXS instrument I made ready to go. So let's go back and listen to this phrase going into the duduk, which plays a melody, and then we're going to start adding some of Hamed's melody behind the duduk. Okay, so let's try now. Well, would it be nice? Let's try it from the beginning. See how that works. No, that doesn't work. Well, maybe we come in halfway through the phrase now. Let's try here. It's quite good. Again. Late. So again a bit late again on that one. And I'm just climbing up and up the keyboard here. Okay, great. That's all you want. So I just have to go and adjust those few that were a bit late and early and what have you. But ultimately, I think we're in pretty good shape. I'll get rid of that one right at the beginning. Let's go from 32. It's a bit late, but I don't mind it. That's a bit early, so let's knock that back to there. It's pretty good. A little bit late, let's up that. Have that a bit earlier, just a tad. Okay, that one definitely needs to be earlier. It's good. Hear that breath at the end there. Let's get a little more of that. Let's make sure we're getting all of that sample there. Okay, that's quite a bit late, so let's move that up. Pretty good. Let's check how they go into each other. All right. need that last one. So I'm going to continue going through that, but as you can tell, building up this melody is really works well, because the way I built it up from the original performance, it got a little more intense, and I kept everything in its sort of chronological order, so that now when I'm playing this back, I can basically almost just keep going up the keyboard, and it's getting more intense, and it has the same sort of timeline in a way that it did in the live performance, without me having to fiddle around too much. So it's very convenient. It's a great way to work. I often work this way, especially with vocals and solo instruments, wind instruments, whatever. It's a good way to be able to bank your stuff for future projects, so that it's easily accessible, and it's also just creatively a way of you participating a little more as a composer in the creation of it. A little bit labor intensive in the beginning, but the payoff is really great, because not only am I using this in this project, next project comes along and I need something like this, I can just pull it up and there it is. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this episode, or this second part episode on recording and working with vocals. I think it's a great way of working with vocals. It opens up so many doors, so I advise you go and check it out, even if you just take little bits and pieces of what I've done and come up with your own way of doing it. Just before I ring off, I do want to mention something of an ethical nature. When I reuse these things in projects down the line, let's say, for example, in 5 years' time, I'm working on a movie and I'm like, oh wow, that stuff I recorded with Hamed on Gethsemane would be perfect here. Let me go and bring that EXS instrument up and blah blah. Oh wow, it's great, fantastic. Well, I wouldn't feel right if I just used it and didn't say anything. So what I do in situations like that is I will call him up, or whoever it was, the singer or the instrumentalist, and say, remember that session we did all those years ago? Well, I used a couple of phrases in this new movie I'm working on. Can I have your permission? And will you accept, I'll pay them a couple $100, whatever it is. Something close to a session fee, but maybe not quite a session fee. And I feel that it's the right thing to do, and I know that every time I've done that, the instrumentalists or singers have really appreciated that I've done that. And so it's just good karma all around. I know not everyone agrees. That's okay. That's your choice. I just wanted to let you know that for me, it's an ethically correct thing to do. So please subscribe, please like, please share this with your friends. Please tell your friends about these episodes. I hope you enjoy them as much as I enjoy making them. I will catch you next week with something super cool. Don't ever stop learning. Ciao. Alright, click. And again, now I just want to do a little bit of housework here. You can make them into a folder or create tracks that create a folder. I just want to get those guys into a folder, and I'm going to call it, or do I want that? No, I don't want that. I actually, thinking about it now, I do want them all on the keyboard. Do I? No, I don't. I'm going to do two different what just happened there? The red, green, the green, orange, and red. Cuts. Done. Okay, let's try that again. All looks good. We were just there. There we go. Much better. In they go. Pop it all in there. So off it goes, and bam. And bam. That's as easy as it gets. Okay.